All right. Welcome, everybody. This is Mike Curry, and I have the pleasure today of having Jessica Banville. She's the president of USA Benefits Group, and super excited to talk through her journey, where she's kind of come from, and how she's kind of climbed the ladder of success. So, Jessica, how are you doing?
Hey, great, Mike. This is fun.
This is awesome. I'm super glad to have you. It was cool. We talked to Rick, obviously, about a week or so ago, and I've been really excited to dive in with you too, because I know that it's been a joint venture.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking
For
forward to
sure.
it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's kind of take the listeners back to the early days. Obviously, you've accomplished a lot, but let's kind of start out in the beginning because there's a lot of people that you know they want to be where you're at, but you don't just show up there, right? So take us back to the beginning, maybe before insurance, how you found insurance, and some of the early struggles that you overcame.
Sure. So I was always somebody who, I'm a hard worker. I'm a doer. I'm definitely a doer. And I could never find anything though that I could make a whole lot of money. That's not true. I made a lot of money in my previous life. I wasn't real good at managing that money, but I always wanted more, and I never knew how to get there. And I just never quite had an opportunity. I never had the mentorship. And the way I was attracted, or how I found insurance, is through Rick, actually. So I was on eHarmony after a horrible divorce that was really broke my life. It really broke me because I thought I was in a fairy tale marriage. I was in the fairy tale. Nobody else was. It was a pretty rough situation, and I was coming out of that. It was a point where I needed to get back out and rebuild my life. And I really wasn't ready to date, but I was on eHarmony. Actually, this should be an eHarmony commercial. And Rick Banville started trying to recruit me on eHarmony. I'm like, dude, I'm looking for a husband. I'm not looking for a job. I got a job. It honestly, like it really did work that way, by the way. And I wasn't really attracted to insurance at all until I saw the business model. And I was like, that's amazing that there's residual income, that I could do something today that I'll get it paid on forever as long as I serve that client well. So I was very fascinated by that. I am not a huge fan of paying for a service that I don't want to use, paying for something that's running in the background, but I'm also not an idiot, right? I also know that it's a necessary an item, and that what a great service we can provide for people like us who don't necessarily want to spend money on something they don't have to use. So let's spend it wisely. Let's choose the product that's going to best fit. So that's really how I got involved in this business. And it's been such a blessing. It's been amazing. What a great way to transform somebody's life, and to also just serve a lot of people.
Yeah, that's awesome. That it's funny because like nobody, and we say this all the time, but nobody comes into insurance thinking, or even when they're younger, thinking they're going to be an insurance agent.
No,
Like it
no,
never
or
crosses
probably
their mind.
sales in general, right? Most people don't really dream of being in sales. And I think it's because people misunderstand sales, right? It's consulting, it's education, it's helping others, it's service, it's servitude. And I think when we change our perspective on that, it changes everything, because then it becomes an honor. I'm honored to get to do what I do.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, I always tell this story because like before insurance, I never sold a thing in my life, and my best friend is in health insurance. Like his parents helped raise me essentially like when I got older, and they never ever approached me about selling insurance. So if you're out there, it's like you might be one of those people. It's like just because you've never thought about it or nobody's ever approached you, it's like it's not really a signal of success because someone has a sales background. You can
Sure.
come from any industry and honestly any background. I was doing appliance repair. Like it had nothing to do with sales, and you find the business like you did, and it really just opens your eyes, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Well, kind of let's transition into that because you didn't just come in and sell some insurance. You became the top producer pretty quickly. And not people come in and sell. Was that something like, did you come in day one and just pick it up, or tell us about some of the early struggles and kind of how you became that top person?
Yep. So for me, I'm just a people person. I absolutely love people. I love solving problems. I love to be the go-to girl for like, come to me and I'll help you fix stuff. I'm a fixer, right? Like I definitely am probably a little more masculine oriented in that way, like you guys just wanting to fix everything. Like just shut up. I'm not trying to, I don't want you to fix anything. Just talk to me. But I'm definitely a fixer. So when I can explore a problem, like that's exciting to me. So for me, I'm also one of those people who loves the phone. I love talking to people. I love learning about people. I'm fascinated by our differences. I'm fascinated by what makes us the same and what makes people tick. Like it's very exciting to me. I just love to explore those differences. So for me, I loved the phone. I loved picking up the phone and just calling people to see if they still needed help with insurance because at some point they said they did. And of course, you get it all, right? You get the people that tell you to kick rocks, you get the people that are grateful for the call, and everything in between. And for me, I always joke and say that if we're talking, it's your fault because if you look at me, if you smile at me, if you talk to me, we're going to be friends. So, and again, that's just part of who I am. I just love people. So sales really is a natural thing for me just because I love that. And I love seeing what I can do to help somebody else. So that part came natural. And then as far as like the building, because it's even if you are a people person, or even if you are great in sales, even if you do have a background, like it doesn't matter. It's hard, right? It's not, it's simple, but it's not easy, right? So it's hard to build a block. It's hard to build up enough income where you can sustain yourself. And that's really what sets people apart. I see is, the people who do it are the ones that just stuck it out. They're not any better. They're not any more educated. There's nothing else different about them except they just stuck it out. And I'm a sticker outer. I'm somebody who's going to do whatever it takes. My previous life, I worked 3 jobs to make my business make it. By the time I got here, I was in an okay position. I didn't have to work 3 jobs anymore, but it was still, those first couple of years are tough. They're really tough. So
Yeah, for sure. And it's crazy because like in the beginning too, you don't always have a lot of money, when you
yeah,
first started. And I think back on my end, it's like just trying to be relatable. So your energy is super infectious, right? You're
right.
positive when you talk to people, like people gravitate towards it because people want to be around people that are uplifting and positive and have a great outlook on life. And I know that as with us as leaders and with agents on the team and stuff, like nobody has any bad thing to say about it. Like it's always positive, and that's who we want to be around, as
Oh,
people. So when you call someone on the phone, I'm sure that bleeds through the phone. There's a lot of people that get on the phone and they're just so negative, or they already think that the person isn't going to want to talk about insurance, and you don't realize it, but what you think is going to happen is usually how it's going to happen.
yep.
And
You get what
everyone
you ask
goes through the
for.
struggles. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's and look, I like coming into this business, I was one of the most negative people ever. It's
That
just like
surprises me.
yeah, and it's like I had to overcome that. But how you overcome that is being around the people that aren't, right? Getting around people like yourself who are positive, who are doing well, or where I want to be. And but yeah, I can definitely see that. So tell us about, did you come in with, because this is something I get all the time, and I'm sure you see this as well. Like a lot of people come into the business and they're like, oh, I don't have a lot of money. And it's just like it's really demoralizing. I didn't come in
Sure.
with a lot of money. I know a lot of agents that didn't. I know some agents that did, but it's really demoralizing for some. And I know that some of the skills that you have been able to allow you at least to get started. Can you tell us a little bit about building a business, basically coming in with enough to basically pay your bills?
Absolutely, because that's exactly where I was. In fact, Rick and I had both gone through a divorce and we were both starting over. Each of us had $5,000 in our bank accounts. But we had each had a home that had mortgages on it. I had a rental property that I owned outright, but I bought it for $7,000 20 years ago. So if that tells you anything. We each had that, but we each had vehicles that we had loans on. Like we didn't have a whole lot. It's more than some people have coming in, right? But it wasn't a lot. So there wasn't a big marketing budget. And I've been in sales my whole life. I had never bought leads. I didn't even know that was a possibility until I met Rick. But I immediately started just knocking on doors in my neighborhood because that didn't cost me anything, right? So I would just knock on people's doors, say, "Hey, I live in the neighborhood. Before I get to all my other clients, I want to take care of my neighborhood first. Who's your agent?" And when they couldn't tell me a name, I'd be like, "Great, well, that's what I do. I'm going to take care of you from this point on." So 100% of the time, like that's my favorite line. Who's your agent? Because if you can't tell me a name, I'm your agent, right? It's just that simple. I'm going to take care of you. And that's, you can't say no at that point because you already told me you don't have an agent. So people will just, okay, they'll just let you do it. If you just say it, people will just let you, especially if they know that you're really caring about them. I also had been in networking prior and I knew how powerful that was. So I immediately went around and tried to find networking groups that were a good fit for me. I had to wait 3 years to get into the one I really wanted. It's funny, even looking back at that time, the agent that was in there was leaving and he said, "You're never going to make any money in here." And I said, "Well, that's okay. I want to give it a shot." And today I've made almost $2 million profit in that group over the last 9 years. So it's extremely beneficial to me in my business.
That's
Extremely
great.
beneficial.
That's
Yeah.
absolutely, that gave me chills.
Yeah. It's
That's a
great.
lot.
It is a lot, and that's a small part of my business. And over that period of time, it's phenomenal. So that something else I always did that I found to be very, very beneficial was when somebody would ask online about, "Hey, I'm looking for health insurance." I never once put my name in. And maybe a friend would put mine in, maybe they wouldn't. And I didn't really care. What I did though is everybody that was recommended, I immediately connected with them on the back end. Because what I kept seeing was there were a lot of captive agents that were being recommended. They're doing a good job in their community, they're captive, so they don't have a whole lot to offer, but their products are good. Or maybe they were a Medicare only agent, or maybe they were a ACA only agent. And being somebody who's a broker who could do all of it, I knew I could be a resource with them. And if I could collaborate and join forces with them, that we could both help each other. And so to this day, that's a huge part of my business is other agents, competitors. They're not really competitors, though we're collaborators. And I've just found that that's been huge for my business. So I've got a giant block of referral partners that are other agents from other companies. Maybe they're Medicare only. I write the U65 business. I actually give them a commission split for that. And then I also lock in their business so that when they're approaching age 64, I kick it back to that Medicare agent. Now I write Medicare, but I tell their client that I don't, right? Hey, yeah, well, they're the ones that write Medicare. So we're going to send you back over. So that's been a huge way for me to grow business pretty quickly. Within the first 2 years, I was 100% referral based, and it's been phenomenal
Wow.
since then. But it's grind. You got to grind those first couple of years.
Yeah, that's so wild though, because most people would never, ever, ever think to be a referral partner with another agent. And
Yeah.
there's some integrity involved too, right? Because like
Sure.
you can write
Yeah.
Medicare, but
Yep.
hey, we're doing this, you're referring me and I'm sending it back over to you. And you build really good connections that way. And there's not a single person out there that if you want to be successful, that you can't do those things.
100%.
And that's the thing. So it's like, obviously, in today's age, buying leads, investing in leads, running ads, all those things are great, and it's the fast track. But not everybody has that, and it's like, what's the quote about, if there's a will, there's a way. You
Yeah.
just got to make it work and figure it out. And there's always somebody that's been in a worse position than you that made it happen. So
Yeah.
if they can do it, you can do it. And
We're all
in the
equals.
beginning, I mean, did you have the confidence to be able to do that? Because I didn't, and I can tell you how I got mine. But did you have the confidence in the beginning that
So,
it would work?
oh yeah, for sure, for sure. So here's how I've always felt. Like I remember being a little bitty kid. I was 7 years old, and I heard the verse, 1 Corinthians 10:31. And it was out of context, but it still works. It's do all that you do for the glory of God. And so I've always known and believed that as long as I'm trying to glorify God, as long as I'm doing whatever, trying to listen to His will and trying to do it His way, I knew that as long as I turned it over to Him, that I was going to be okay no matter what. So I've always had that confidence behind me. I don't know if it's self-confidence more than it is just confidence on my provider.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Well, I'm also a believer, and I felt like I didn't have that confidence. I wish I would have had more confidence in the beginning that
Well,
the
you got
Lord
plenty
would
now.
provide. And oh yeah, it's changed a lot. In the beginning, I remember just I had to borrow confidence. My wife had more confidence in me. I'm like, you want me to do insurance? I'm like, what? Like, you know who I am? Like, it's crazy. It's because it's in the. I I don't want to get off on a tangent, but insurance, I just find it's incredible because and you can even see it with the USABG team or just the industry together. There's so many different people from all walks of life, different backgrounds, different circumstances, different beliefs, different parts of the country, that people that can barely speak English in some cases,
Yeah,
that if they just do it, show up, have conversations, right? They can be successful in this. And I
absolutely.
think that's the biggest thing is like, I'm such a believer in this industry that I literally share this with everybody because in my mind, and I feel like if I can do this business, then I don't see a person out there that can't, because I'm not special. Like, I don't do anything special. I just do it. We talked about that on the leader call earlier, right? We just do it. The people, it's not anything other than just action. You can think about it all day long, but you just have to do it. And the path specifically at USABG has been laid. It's just following in the footsteps. So let's transition a little bit into the Banville division, because you guys, not only were you the top producer for a long time, but you decided, hey, I want to duplicate myself. I love this business. I'm passionate about this business, and I want to help others become that way and grow. So can you kind of tell us how you grew the division
Yeah. So
and what
it's
a division is actually?
Yeah, so a division is an agency. So you're building out, when you come in as a personal producer, you're building out an agency within yourself. At some point that you're looking to duplicate that, and by teaching others, I can give away a piece of what I know, and I can actually make a little tiny piece over the top. The overrides in our business aren't huge, but it's a numbers game at that point. And how many people can I really offer the opportunity to change their lives? Because if I can do that over and over and over and over and just help really make other people hyper successful, then I get to rise up with them. So it's really such an amazing opportunity, and it's one of those things, like, we're so excited about it. It's changed our lives. Of course, we want to share it with the world. Of course, it's exciting. The most frustrating thing about building is that everybody's equipped with the exact same information, the exact same opportunity, and just the frustrating thing is, why do some people not follow through and change their life? Why do some people give up before the miracle? That's probably the most frustrating thing about the business. So,
Yeah. No, I agree, and it's like, because everyone has the same challenges that they have to
yeah,
overcome. I heard a guy say one time, "There's a devil in every level."
yeah,
And that's from the beginning all the way up. There's a devil literally in every level that's challenging. But I, the person that you become along the way, it's so cool to see. And
it is.
you probably see it in your own life. Like, you're not even the same person you were 10 years ago.
Oh, it's
You
so
know,
true.
and it's
It's
like,
so true.
yeah. And it's like, and then the people, and this is the fulfilling part. And I wanted you to talk about this a little bit, because you've got agents on your team, and you can talk about one that comes to mind. But like, seeing that also, like, it's one thing, and it's like, if you're a parent out there, it's one thing for like when you do something, but like when you see your kids do something well or have success, like, it's more fulfilling than you doing it yourself. So, not that agents are kids, but like, when you are directly involved in helping someone find success and they find it, especially in when they go through struggle, or like maybe they don't believe in themselves, or they're in a bad time, and they're just in a rut, in a whatever, and you help them kind of see through it, and then they have success. Like, it's so impactful. Talk
Yeah,
about that a little bit, because I know you've had plenty of examples of people that you've helped build.
for sure. And that was our goal originally, was to create six-figure earners in our hometown, because we're not in a real high net worth community. So that was the first challenge, was, is that possible? Can we do it? And we did. And that is so cool. Like, when you can absolutely see somebody's life change that way, and finances isn't everything, but it buys you freedom, and it buys you confidence, and it buys you time, and it buys you so many things. So and again, I'm not a highly money motivated person at all, but I'm a hyper goal oriented person. So seeing other people achieving their goals and getting to live the life they wanted is so satisfying for me. Like that was just the coolest thing in the whole world. And I know you get to see that too, because you've got a very large team that's growing rapidly and, wide and quick, right? So it is exciting. What I love is seeing the different types of people. So we've got super successful people who have come over. I think of guys like Eric Wilson. Eric Wilson came over and made $200,000 his first year, in addition to what he was already making. He was already making a lot of money. He made an additional $200,000 just from being plugged into USABG. That's cool. But and then I
Yeah.
think of brand new guys like David Paul, who's just busted his butt. He's a young man and he's just hungry for that leadership and mentorship. And he's going to follow the systems and the processes, and he gets to live a life like nobody else his age because he's doing it. And to see him now building out a team of his own is just so rewarding. It's so cool to watch. And there's story after story after story like that just, man, that makes you feel good. That just to be a part of their success story is so cool.
Yeah, and it's so cool to see. Obviously, it builds the belief in everybody, because even
Yeah.
if it hasn't happened to you yet, and you see other people going through it, it again, it builds the confidence. And so when people work with you, talk about like what they get, the support that they get, and some of the things that you're how you're able to take them from basically, hey, I don't know anything about insurance, show me how this works.
Well, here's what's so great about USA Benefits Group. And this is what attracted to me in the beginning. So the system has evolved immensely over the last several years. Rick and I took over leadership here in 5 years ago. But even before that, it was already a phenomenal plug and play system. So everything was already there. And we see it kind of like a giant funnel, right? Like we put agents in, anybody who says they're an entrepreneur, they want this opportunity, you put them in, they're going to do it if they want to, right? If they want to, and if they actually do the steps, they're going to be successful. So we really created this system to be autonomous anyway, where you don't have to talk to your upline leadership if you don't want to. Now, the more successful agents do, of course, but just being part of that system, people can find any resource they need at any time they need and can be successful. So is it something that I've done the bees, is there some magic behind the Banville division? No, there's not, other than we've been fortunate enough to find people that plug and play. And that's really where the magic happens, is are we finding the people that can plug and play without making anybody else accountable for their success but themselves? And if you've got that deep in your heart, then you're going to be successful at USABG, period.
Yeah, I love that. And it is cool because you guys have like the case studies. The one of the biggest things, and I've seen this at previous stops in the industry, that people come back to, they're like, man, it's all dictated on like who their upline is, or they think so, right? And I'm a big believer that anybody in this business can have success in any
Yeah.
company in this business.
Yep.
Like, because at the end of the day, are there better opportunities? Yeah, absolutely, 100%. USABG is the best, right? Like, obviously, but the
Clearly.
reality is, I'm going to be successful wherever I go because it's up to me to be successful,
Yep.
right? And
Right.
I'm a big believer in that, and that's why you have successful people at every single company,
That's
right?
right.
But some of the cool things, and you mentioned it, is like, for instance, case studies. The biggest complaint I always heard was, I need help. Like, what product do I write, or where do I go if I have this situation or that? And we literally have that mapped out to where you're not just reliant on your upline mentorship, right? You can literally go, and we have dedicated leaders that can go and answer your questions. You have access to that. We have a full library. Like, there's so much resources that you would have to be blind not to be successful, or just choose, you just don't want it, right? Like, at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, because there's so many resources, and you guys have built that, because like you said, it hasn't always been here, right? You guys have built that. And let's kind of talk about, so what's really cool is, obviously, well, not obviously, nobody knows this, but you guys grew the division, right? You came in top producers, were running your thing, building a team, and the opportunity came along to become USABG. Let's talk about that, how that transpired, and how that's been built since then.
Yeah.
and some
What
big
a what
goals.
a great opportunity too. So cool. So when Rick and I were running, it was Top Guns was our first division, our first, big agency within USA Benefits Group. And at some point, we were just kind of dominating. And so Don Duryea, who was our mentor and previous owner of USABG, he asked us to split the teams. We split it right down the middle, created like new gang, old gang. So then we were Top Gun versus Dream Team, just to make it a more level playing field. We both kept growing and kind of still continued to dominate the leaderboards as far as team growth. And so at some point, we had about 60% of the business in USABG just on our teams. So Don approached us and said, look, I'm looking at retiring. It's about time. And I want to put my block up for sale. Why don't you guys put yours up with me? Right. Because we're stronger together always. So we said, yeah, let's look at that. And as we were looking at it, we're like, wait a minute, we still have another 10 or 20 years. Like, we still want to keep going. And Don, he's a little bit older than us, and he was ready. He'd always had a dream of retiring at age 60. So for him, he was ready to do it. And we just decided we weren't. So he actually sent people over to our office to like check out what was happening at USABG. And these people were coming in and were like, we don't want to work for them. Like, these people have no clue about the business. One of them even said, we're going to shut down the outside distribution and just do what you're doing in the office. We're like, that's a horrible idea. USABG is outside distribution. Like, don't do that. So at some point we said, you know what? We don't want to sell. We want to buy. And Don's like, okay. And he's like, do you have the money? You're like, no, but we can get it. We didn't know if we could get it, right? So we did, though. We were able to get it. We went through we did a small business loan, and we were able to get the money, and we ended up buying USABG, and that was a giant liability for us. It was like, I'd never in a million years thought I would owe that kind of money to anything. And so it was terrifying, but we knew that we could grow it. We knew how special this opportunity was. We knew what it was. We knew that we could grow it, and we knew that we could change a lot of lives by taking over.
Yeah, and you guys have. It's crazy, and Rick talked about it on the podcast last week, and maybe you can hit on it. Just that 10x and 10-year mindset, that goal that you guys threw out there. Um, Talk about that a little bit, because we talk about it all the time and how where we're at in the process, which we're way ahead of schedule. But just talk about that, being the kind of the mindset when you first took over.
Yeah. So we're huge on stewardship, right? So we believe that anything that God gives us, what is He asking us to do? He's asking us to multiply, whether it's in the spiritual or the physical, whatever, right? God is asking us to multiply. So here's what I'm going to give you. Can I trust you to multiply it? And if you do, then I'm going to give you more responsibility. I'm going to give you more and more and more, like as much as you can handle, but you have to prove to me that you can do it. And so we see business the exact same way. So when we were given the opportunity, maybe we didn't know exactly what number was the right one or whatever, but we heard the 10x number and we're like, we like that one. We'll go with that. Right. So we didn't even really have a strategy behind it other than we had a whole history of growth. So we were already doing it. Now we're just telling the world to do it with us. And what's just phenomenal is we see that USABG agents jumped on board and said, yeah, let's do that. And so collectively, if you watch some of those, you see them, we were part of some of them, those growth videos that we put out, because all of our teams are hyper focused on growth too, because they're all looking for that same stewardship. They're all looking for that same, let me go grow it and God will give me more, right? So they're all doing the same thing. And you just see the growth over here is astronomical. It's hard to even grasp it because it's not one or two agents, it's across the board. And because everyone's buying into it. If people say, yes, I want it, and yes, I'm going to do it, then it happens. And it's just the coolest thing in the world. So the 10X in 10 years, we're 2 years ahead of schedule. It's so fun. I love your attitude. You're like, let's 10X in 3 years. Well, yeah, let's do that, Mike. I love it.
Yeah, it's awesome, and I keep saying it, but like the culture at USA Benefits Group is unlike anything I've experienced because it's very family oriented. And, I think, again, it all starts at the top, right? And the way that you guys run the company, and the way that you guys lead, just everything from the top down is just ultra professional. down to the office that you guys, have that's in your background, the A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. I talked about this last week with Rick. I'm like, you know how unheard of that is? Like most FMOs, IMOs, whatever you want to refer to it as out there, they are running a agent focused recruiting campaign, right? And it comes across very MLM-ish in a lot of
Yeah.
ways, right?
Yeah.
I've at least experienced that. And there's nothing wrong with it in a say, because like, especially on the life insurance side, which is where I come from, there's no passive income unless you build a team, right? Well, health is obviously different because you have renewals. And that was my biggest thing, because a lot of people just want to come in and sell insurance and have passive income. Well, you can do that here, right? And then if you decide, hey, I want to duplicate myself, which I love, that's my favorite thing. It sounds like that's your favorite thing. I love helping people do what I've done because I'm a big believer in it. Then you can, so you can do both. But I think that the craziest thing is like, you guys run the company so professional. If someone was to look up USA Benefits Group online, you have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, not on the agent side, on the client side, right? So at the end of the day, nothing's possible if we're not taking care of clients. And it doesn't matter anything in sales, So if you're trying to sell insurance, you want to sell insurance with a company that's reputable, that's actually doing it the right way. That speaks volumes in training. That means we're trained right, right? That's a lot of history. I mean, you guys have been in business, I saw 38 years now. I say you guys, it's me too, obviously. I've not been in business for 38 years, but the company's been in business for 38 years.
Collectively.
Yeah, collectively. And it's just wild to think. So there's extreme stability there. So if you're looking
Yes.
at this, if you're a client and you find this podcast, obviously you can trust that we're going to put you in the best plan possible, and we have all the carriers. If you're an agent looking at this, you're like, I want to be a part of a company that's stable and that's growing and has good leadership. I think that's the top three things on everyone's mind. And I can't say that I've ever worked around better leaders. There's nothing in my mind that is more comforting, knowing that like I'm out here, I have a goal that I'm trying to achieve, and you guys are. It's not fake, right? Like it can sometimes feel like you guys are actually invested into helping me grow, right? And you're invested into helping the agents grow, and it's true and authentic. And I just wanted to say that because there's a lot of things out here that don't feel that way, and it's like, oh, they're only helping me because they make money off of me or whatever the scenario is. And I've been there in those situations, and I know a lot of agents have, but it's just different. It's a different way when someone cares about you, right? But that's twofold. You have to also reciprocate that. It makes you
Yeah.
want to go out of your way. It makes me want to run and say, let's build USABG and make it the biggest, baddest thing out there, which it already is, but it's got to get out there, you know. And it's just, I don't know. So it starts with you guys. So I just wanted to say that
Well,
because
thank you.
I think it's a huge deal. Talk
That
about
that means a lot.
go
Thank
ahead.
you.
Yeah, talk about the that next phase. And I'm not trying to run through this super fast, but I the AmeriLife thing, because I think it's a huge deal. I want to say this before you talk about it though, because a couple years ago there was um, there was a guy that told me. So we had, there's companies out there. I'll let you explain it. I don't want to get too far in the weeds with this. There's companies out there that, if you build something at scale that's stable, and you've got EBITDA, right? You've got an actual business. There's companies out there that would want to acquire and partner with you, right? And I had a guy told me, this was about 3 years ago now, and I'm new in the business. I come out, I start selling. I'm selling at a high level, start building a team, and you know, as a young agent or agency manager, that was like my dream, but I didn't really believe that like I could do it. I see other people doing it, but I'm like, I don't know that I could do this. Like, I'm gonna try. I want to do it, but there was his name was Dave, and it was crazy because he spoke into me, and this was 3 years ago now, and he goes, "You're gonna be a partner. Like, I already know you are," and I'm like, "Really? You think so?" And it's always stuck with me, and I don't know what it was. Sometimes it just comes down to like people telling you that
Yeah.
they believe in you, or saying something like that. And it's wild because that is my goal, right? To one day partner. But you guys have done this.
Yes.
And, looking into that, how has that changed your business? And then maybe talk about, like, obviously it's years down the road for most, that, especially if you're starting, but talk about kind of like how this business can evolve to that partnership and why that's impactful.
It's so important. So when we took our leadership at the end of 2020, that was something that was very unusual. You were not seeing downlines buying out uplines. You were not seeing these big acquisitions that are possible. So nobody thought of it that way. We all thought of it like, hey, we're building a really great residual based business. We can have some downline agents if we want, but we didn't. We really kind of thought that was the end point. It never really dawned on any of us that there was another level. And so we implemented then the bigger vision and just started speaking out and over our people that if you're looking for the next level, we know how to get there because we've done it now, right? So that was the bigger vision was when we took over, but then it got even bigger when we did that AmeriLife transaction 2 years ago, and that was such a phenomenal opportunity. So it is again, you're betting on yourself, right? Because you're doing a merger and acquisition where you're giving up a portion of your business. So now you're living off of the balance of that business with faith that you're going to be able to grow that business back up. And if you do that, then you're back to where you were when you started. And now you've just got this giant sellable asset that you're continuing to run because you still have ownership in it and you're bringing other people up alongside you. So it's just something that's really like, who knew that this existed? How cool is this? Right. And then partnering with, so, as you go through life, you're attracted to different types of people at different stages. Right. And so as we became more and more financially successful, we wanted more. And we found that there's even some different mindsets at the different levels. And so we were always attracted to the people who were doing it bigger and better than us. And so it's so fun to just go hear what's different. Like, what do these people think and do differently than I do? What can I learn from them? And that's kind of where we are today is, USABG is a very large multi-million dollar company. We hit over 125 something million dollars this year in sales. So that's what the premium we were taking to the carriers. And then we've got AmeriLife that's doing that in the billion-dollar ranges and multi-billion-dollar ranges. So it's really cool because now we're talking to people who are doing it at a much higher level than we are. What do they know that we don't? And what can we bring back to our teams to help inspire them to get to that next level? That's cool. That's some good stuff right there. But you have to be humble enough to say, what do you know that I don't? And how can I learn from this?
Yeah, it's amazing to be able to get in rooms, because like I said, there's a devil in every level, right? Like,
Yep.
now you have a partnership. Now, how do we grow even more? Now that
Yeah.
there's different standards, and it's like, you get around people, and it's just cool to see you guys where you're at. I know we'll have to name this podcast from eHarmony to AmeriLife.
I like
That's
it.
awesome. That's awesome. But it's just like, every step of the way, whether you're an agent coming in and you're selling insurance, and then you become a top producer, and then you start growing a team, and then in some cases you buy the whole company. But even then you grow your team, and then there's an opportunity to if you grow it big enough to partner with companies out there. It's just the most amazing industry. So you've done it. And that's the coolest thing about it. You've done it. And, if you're out there and you're like, man, who can I find that is where I want to be? You and Rick, I mean, can't really find a better power couple. I always thought that was interesting too. Do you find that interesting? Like, I feel like the most successful companies seem to be run by like husband and wife teams.
It's interesting, isn't it? So we see that a lot here, and that's big faith, right? Because it's not easy to work with your partner, especially if your partner's Rick Banville. but it's not easy, and it's a little spooky too when the whole thing is reliant on both of you. A lot of times you've got a partner that has a stable job while you build this, and we've seen a lot of that, like the Stephen Hineses of the world, where his partner was his wife is a six-figure earner, and then at some point had the faith to walk away from that and join him. And of course, that's a scary ride. Which way is the business going to go? And look at them now; they're skyrocketing. Same thing with Christopher and Paulette Turner. Same exact situation. Six-figure earner stepped away from it at some point, had faith that they could build it, and look at them now; they're off to the moon. And we see a lot of it. The Damien and Matilda Relier. Same situation. They're working together as a couple. We've got Manny and Cam Quinones doing the same thing. They just became a divisional leadership position here, one of the partners here at USABG with me and you. I mean, how cool is this to watch all of these power couples doing it? And it's because it's going to be really hard to fail when you're both in it at 100%. Just like a marriage, right? When you're both in at 100%, it's hard to fail.
Yeah, and you understand perspective where like
Mhm.
if the one spouse isn't involved, it's hard to really know like what you're going because it's mentally it's like it's just like any business. It can be exhausting. I mean, we're
Sure.
talking about all the good things. There's a lot of exhausting aspects of this business and just any business that you're running, there's things there's it doesn't really stop, right? And especially now thankfully like my wife she's very in tune with that, and she doesn't help directly in the business because we have small children, but she helps in many ways like building confidence,
Yes.
especially in early on. Like she told me to quit my job. Like I was like, what? Like I hadn't even made a sale yet, right? So it's like little stuff like that that
That's
that
awesome.
that creates that. But I just see so many power couples, and I think it's just because two's better than one, right? I mean, it's kind of the way even our marriages are designed, right? The way
Yeah,
that God set us up from the beginning. So, and
it's true.
everybody, and you both have your strengths too. So,
Oh, for sure.
plenty.
And that helps. That helps when you have the uh, different strengths, right? And Rick is very much more the detail person. He's going to finish things up and make sure it happens. A lot of times, I've got big ideas that I don't necessarily see through completion. So it's a great partnership. It works out
Oh yeah.
perfectly.
And if you've ever been to a USABG conference or you come to one, you'll know how impactful that is. There's
Yeah.
no way Rick or any of us would do that. It's a show. It's a really good show. So,
Oh,
all
thanks.
right,
It's fun.
Jessica. Well, I appreciate you being on. I know everybody will enjoy listening to this. So, do you have anything else to say before we go?
No, I just want to say thank you to you because you're the one that brought this whole idea of the podcast. And I just want to really, really talk. I just want to say that we appreciate your leadership because what we see from you, Mike, is that you're somebody who's not intimidated or afraid to share anything you know, and that you've been such a great partner with here at USAPG because you are bringing collaboration. You're bringing you've been an amazing impact to the culture here. I said it on the leadership meeting today that your team is all about, USABG and helping one another. And what a great addition to USABG. And we're just so grateful to have you.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. I mean, from the beginning, everything you learn in this business, I feel like is shared information. You take things and you tweak it and you make it your own. But at the end of the day, like we're all learning from each other, and that's how I
Sure.
built my team, just sharing everything. People that weren't even on my team, even back when I was selling insurance, people would say, "What leads are you running? What are you doing this?" I'm like, "I just give you the information." At the end of the day, it's like you want to help everybody you can, and people are going to do it or not do it. But if
Yep.
you share, I feel like if you're willing to just help anyone, I feel like that's the reason why my team and why where I'm at is where I'm at because I've just always been willing to help people, and I feel like that stuff comes back around.
It does.
So, and that's how you guys are. So, if someone wanted to work with USA Benefits Group or with Jessica, you specifically at the Banville division, how can they get a hold of you?
Just jump onto usabg.com and fill out this form. There's a careers video on that form and fill it out. And one of our recruiters will reach out and see if we have a good fit.
Perfect. All right. Everybody go follow the YouTube page, USA Benefits Group, Facebook, it's USA Benefits Group as well. And then I believe Instagram is USABG. Had a good time. Great for the conversation. And we will see you guys next time.
Thanks, Mike.